Hey there, how's everybody doing? My name is Tomlin Nyback. This is 365 Days Toward Racial Change. We're day 354. Glad you could be with us again. Welcome. If you're new to this project, we're starting to wind down here. We've only got 11 or so more videos to go here, so I can take a break. But this has been a labor of love. We're here talking about Black issues in America, being Black, what it means. Um, we talked about other folks as well. When we're talking about conditions in America and how racism, oh, informs these conditions. And so we'll do statistics, politics, health now with the coronavirus, history. Oh, a lot of things we've talked about. We've looked at this thing from as many angles as we can get. We've got hundreds of years of history to reflect on. We have great um, information and insights and research from other learned people that tell us, why things are the way they are based on the way racism impacts, oh, American life. Listen, America is the country where skin color really does mean something in the land. You're um, it's not right or healthy, I don't think, but America is that land where skin color really does matter. You know, um, Black lives matter. All lives matter, of course, but Black lives matter because the skin color is impacting a person's experience and relationships in the land. You find I talk to people. I'd like to run into people who've not been tainted, infected with the racism virus. It's very contagious, right? Um, it does seem to be um, confined to America in a certain way, but I'm sure there's other places that deal with it. In general, you'll probably find darker skin colors having to navigate their respective systems in very creative ways, so to speak. It's I only know America, so this is where I feel it. And I was at a point in my life where I thought I was going nutzoid about it. Had no idea resistance, climbing social ladders, vocational ladders, all these things, and never understanding how important race in America is. Right? I mean, there's ways to navigate, be successful for Black people if we can entertain, handle a ball. That's one of the quickest routes I've seen in America consistently. You get in those areas and uh, you'll be in a position where you can make it, go somewhere in life, climb ladders, and you know be wealthy, gather a lot of wealth to yourself, and that's not a bad thing, not a bad thing. But um, What about the other disciplines? Writing, medicine, you know, it seems like, other groups, boy, they can be cross disciplined in so many different areas and be successful and whatnot. But black people seem to be confined to this little niche, um, and that's like all we can do. It's all the world wants to recognize. It's entertainment and sports, you know. So that's what we do here. That we think about why is that? Why are um, options so, I don't know, limited for black folks when other groups succeed in business, sports, entertainment, medicine, politics, right? It's just more prevalent. Yet it seems like um, black folks are only good for entertainment. And today we're going to talk about incarceration. Dysfunctions of America seem to be where black people, what we're known for, where we excel, and things like that. Before we get to that, I'll get to our resources here, which I can't get around because this is how I broke free, and now I got this relatively free. I had to buy some materials. I'm not charging, uh, but it's brought me some freedom. So I'll just give it right back to the universe and see if that seed bears any fruit. I'm cool if it does not. I'm inspired to do this work by a man named Dr. Claude Anderson. He's written three great works. First book that I read was A Black History Reader, 101 Questions You Never Thought to Ask. Black Labor, White Wealth, Search for Power, and Economic Justice. And Dr. Anderson's National Plan to Empower Black America, Powernomics. You can find Dr. Anderson at powernomics.com and here on YouTube. Behind me, you see the hashtag #US2 symbol. You'll find black women having their resources, supporting one another. Check out Black Enough, BLAGGENUF. There, just type that in your browser. You'll find kind of a black Facebook community. If you can't find your flavor, your resources here on the World Wide Web, do what I did. Start your own little blog, podcast, whatever. Um, if you have a entrepreneurial mind, check out Dr. Boyce Watkins at the Black Business School, theblackbusinessschool.com, and he'll check you out. He'll help you get some resources. I just got a email. I guess he's having some sale on some of his resources. Check out Mr. Tyrone Gregory, self-employed tax guy, real good guy. He'll give you some feedback um, on your issues and questions. And finally, what I love is we have story time. Uncle Tom's Cabin. Harriet Beecher Stowe's phenomenal work of, um, it's fictional account of late slave life in America, but it's informed by genuine, real, factual events. So getting back to what black people are good for now, on the positive side, sports, entertainment, stuff like that. But it's disturbing that we seem to be confined to those areas to find success and be wealthy in America. Um, but then we talk about incarceration, right? Where Black Americans make up so much of the um, incarcerated population, and it doesn't even make any reasonable sense per capita. You know, Black Americans, are making up, less than 15% of the nation, yet their incarceration rate is upwards of 2% of that, whereas white folks make up well over 60% of the nation's population, and yet their incarceration rate is 0.5%. Something's wrong with that lopsided picture. That's just something I looked at, I think, in Wikipedia. I forget which year it was, but I'm pretty sure those statistics have been pretty consistent for a long period of time. Speaking of entertainment, uh, Eddie Murphy and Martin Lawrence starred in a movie called Life. And they were two, you know, well, Eddie Murphy was a hustler, Martin Lawrence worked at a bank or whatever. They get caught up in some drama and they got to take some or get some alcohol from down deep south, right? And it's the Jim Crow years in America, Jim Crow, semi-slavery. We had about 100 years of that. This was after incarceration. And what happened was they they got some trouble. They got framed for a murder, and it was probably a speedy trial. There was no investigation. It's not like an episode of Law and Order broke out behind the murder that these two characters were around. And it's funny. It's a nice story and all that. But what I wanted to illustrate is with that situation that they were in, it's an illustration of how Jim Crow operated in the Deep South. The 13th Amendment was all about emancipation, right? And the wording was quite nebulous, and it cast a large net. It said, it essentially states, shall not have people in servitude, and things like that. That eliminated the slavery part. It was no longer sanctioned. But there was one little caveat in there, little loophole. It said we won't have bond servants, servitude, and forced labor and stuff, except in cases that involved incarceration. Nice big loophole. So you had um, frivolous laws coming out. Where black man, they had laws to the degree where a black man couldn't look at a black woman do better than a white man. A black man couldn't look at a white woman do better than a white man. Count change in front of a white man. These things became law, and these laws would put a black man and woman in front of a judge, and um, that judge would just ship them off to some type of work camp to continue this cycle of free labor. You remember Oprah Winfrey's character in The Color Purple, right? She was kind of a free spirited black woman, right? But a white man strikes her and gets no repercussions, and she ends up um, knocking him out, gets incarcerated, and is abused and things like that. That's the Jim Crow uh, uh, an atmosphere that ruled in in the deep South towards blacks. You know, never forget, you know, racism is not going anywhere. It's just going through various metamorphoses, and it's has uh, clever minds have scaled it so that it appears that people are free, but people are, you know, where you had open slavery in the 1700s, so some of that stuff, or early to mid 1800s, um, where it was just overt in the South. You know, with emancipations and easing of restrictions on the slave, well, it became scalable. It just the white population, you know, settled for just as long as they remained on top, socially and economically. Hence, the black folks suffer socioeconomically. As long as that continues, then white people were kind of okay with that. As long as they're always on top, you know, okay, you got a 13th Amendment, well, then we're going to attack the black population with frivolous laws and things like that. You come and you look through history at these degrees, right, where you have to, you know, make it so that you're making a kind of an accommodation for black folks, but um, you make sure that the position of white folks stays pretty solid and stays consistent um, through any cycles of easings, giving freedoms, right? Look at things like voting rights, right? You say, okay, well, you're going to give everyone a right to vote. Well, then you get people tinkering with gerrymandering, um, requiring literacy, all these things going on at the polls when voting is supposed to be a representation of the will of the community, right? And you know, in the South and probably plenty other places in the United States, you know, you've got a majority of people, maybe a white minority, yet you got white people running politics and stuff all over the place, you know. So that's been a tough one to uh, to get a hold of. See plenty of black folks in politics today, but you know, remember it was not always so. You know, when any kind of new law comes out to ease restrictions, bring equality, things like that, well, there's gonna be um, a lot of controls and maneuvering in place to make sure that it's not an opportunity for black folks to rise to the level to be competitive and to really have unfettered access to wealth and resources in America. That this Jim Crow idea, semi-slavery over time, is just one of the mechanisms that the powerful white majority put in place to keep blacks at least underneath, keep blacks, uh, prevent blacks from being eye level and competitive with the will of white folks in America. You know, it's Jim Crow is that. Remember in Harriet Beecher Stowe's book, Uncle Tom's Cabin, Jim Crow, the young black girl Topsy was a girl bought from the Jim Crow line, right? So Jim Crow is just a slang term, pejorative term, at aimed at black folks to to signify a condition in America for black folks. In the case of Harriet Beecher Stowe's book, Jim Crow line is where apparently people are entertaining, black children probably especially are entertaining. They're orphans and probably rejects, or just children that have not been bought outright and just got their assignment yet. But they're entertaining and they're singing, and that they attract the attention of potential white buyers. Right, that's another aspect of Jim Crow. Sons of Anarchy. They use the term Jim Crow in that series. I liked Sons of Anarchy, but the Sons of Anarchy had a law. It was one of their, you know, doctrines or what have you, that black people couldn't be a part of that. That's not unusual for a white motorcycle gang. And there's a whole series with a guy named Juice, and his heritage is in question, and another law enforcement officer is manipulating Juice over his possible connection with black folks. But that's another idea of Jim Crow. When you hear Jim Crow, it means black folks are getting the short end of the stick somewhere in that, in what's going on in the land. So Eddie Murphy, Martin Lawrence in life, it's a rush trial, and the judge just gavels the verdict. They're guilty, and they're sentenced to life, right? And that's probably how it was, for a lot of black folks that would get themselves caught up in the system. They would say, well, from with my time in the inner city, they say you're being on paper, right? And you're just manipulated and in the system, and it's really hard to get out. One major stop for black folks, especially like Louisiana areas, was called Angola State Penitentiary, and housed a lot of people. But the place, Angola, was 75% black folks, and that's back in 2010. It's not that statistic is not that very old, and it was. And it's an area that's a holdover from some of the extreme Jim Crow times, the times that these agencies were out to continue gathering free black labor. And, that's what it was. These prisons, you think of a term like a chain gang and stuff like that. You had white folks dealing with that. If you look at, watch a movie called Cool Hand Luke, and you see some of that going on. But, for this Jim Crow and this connection with labor and incarceration, it was getting black folks, clear the land, build roads, maintain train tracks, drain swamps, just doing a lot of mean labor in the land through this incarceration. Do you remember, if you ever seen the movie Shawshank Redemption? This the idea where some of the heavier work and hard labor, you know, um, a prison would, be used as an outsource to do some of that labor, um, and it was usually at a cheaper rate, and they um, would get money, and that would pay for food and resources to a degree. But it wasn't like the prisoners were making a living wage doing this kind of work. I've actually been in my personal life subject to the same system. I've been in and out of rehabs a lot, and missions and homes, and I was at one place where we would occasionally we would get the home I was in for drug addicts would get kind of contracted by word of mouth. Actually, I think the guy that the pastor that ran the home had a relative involved with demolition of um, hotel floors in the big city that I was in. And apparently that's pretty good work. But what we would do is we have to do this overnight. So they kind of let us rest during the day. Sometimes the environment was stressful in these drug rehabilitation places. But anyway, kind of take it easy on us and we rest. And then we'd leave, sometime 10, 11 at night to go strip a whole floor, hotel floor, of beds, carpets, mirrors, dressers, lamps. And, the room had to be bare. And, a lot of, I don't know how many people know this, but um, they cycle every few months or so, these floors get redone. And I mean, it makes sense. This is before the virus, so who knows what kind of activity goes on, how long beds and stuff remain. But it wasn't bad work, but you could tell that this work, and I mean, you had a lot of guys, a lot of labor. Uh, we got zero. We kind of ate well. They let us eat well, which is wise because it was pretty challenging work, right? But they wanted us healthy or have enough energy to sustain the level of work we needed to do. And it was pretty intense what was happening, stripping these floors. There's a book a good friend gave me called Drapomania where there's some commentary about preparing the slaves to do some heavy work, and you think about the dietary practices, right? In Uncle Tom's Cabin, we hear, Tom, he had to make his own corn cake, right? You don't hear a whole lot of protein going on or square meals. Anyway, in this book, Drapomania, the slave is, when it's come times, maybe the height of the harvest, or preparing to do some hard labor, they would give the slave some extra pork rind or pork fat to go, kind of recharge, a little extra charge of the body compared to their usual meal. Um, that was how they got the slave to have a little oomph, like put some extra octane in your gas tank is what they would do. So I understand a little bit of that. Jim Crow, Angola, Louisiana State Penitentiary, these things, go hand in hand. These incarceration houses and complexes are just, there are ready-made places um, to receive any kind of subterfuge that has gone on out in the world to capture black folks. You don't want to let them off the chain too much and for too long, but you can catch them in a frivolous law, frame people. Who knows what kind of underhanded, nefarious activity went on to recapture that free black labor. But it happened. And um, you had Angola, other places just ready to receive um, these victims of America's racism. I'm Thomas Nyback. That's 354 out of the way. 365 days towards racial change. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.